Episode 6 is historical, but for all the wrong reasons. It's historically hated on IMDb. It's hovering around 2.7 at the time of writing this script, but by the time I got round to recording it, it was at 2 out of 10, making this episode the lowest rated episode of anime ever to exist. Twitter is a war zone right now. And in this channel, I've tried to be very positive on the new season, but there is negatives. There always has been. I've always pointed them out first in my videos for that reason. One of these reasons is they, for example, in the episode, stay on the same building shot for 20 seconds. It's instead of animating them going up the stairs. There's many mistakes made in the anime. There's so much wrong with this episode that honestly cannot in any capacity be defended. It is rushed, it is janky, and it is unwatchable. And even for someone like me, who has avidly defended One Punch Man and this production, I just couldn't sit through this episode without feeling disgusted. But how did this happen? It's no secret to anyone that JC staff have struggled with this season. Whether it was a low budget, tight schedule, something isn't right here. But with this episode, it's fairly clear as to what happened. The reason why episode 6 looks the way it does, staff breakdowns show that almost the entire episode is outsourced away from JC staff to a Chinese subcontractor. This included everything: key animation, secondary key animation, in-betweens, and even most of the coloring, with the main studio basically just handling roles like chief animator, compositing, and CGI. Outsourcing as a concept, as a practice, isn't evil or even necessarily bad, but dumping an episode wholesale into an external team with a brutal schedule that you've been given and that is even tighter for those is a drastic oversight and a recipe for exactly what we got: disaster. Not that these haven't been present in the season so far. We saw so many more static pans, missing background art, missing art in general. Looking at you, fucking Atomic Samurai's top bun, exposed, completely unfinished. And I feel any of the positive reviews are always talking about the story and the characters, something that the anime itself can really have no claim to. These are things that were written years in advance and proven to be good in the manga and webcomic. The story isn't something the anime should be praised for. So if you were to take away all those reviews, I can only shake in fear of what the rating would actually fall to. A lot of fans are pointing the finger at the choice of episode director. Individual who is already considered controversial for his past work on projects like Tower of God, one of the biggest train wrecks in anime until One Punch Man, and the doomed Uzumaki adaptation. So the second we saw his name in the staff list, people were very quick to put all the blame on him. Put all that together, a season already under strain, an episode almost entirely shipped overseas, with only one in-house director managing that episode. And of course, episode 6 ends up feeling like a glorified YouTube animatic, with less animation than most story time YouTube accounts. The situation is truly dire. But what of the rest of the season? If episode 6 was this compromised, barely halfway through a 12-episode run, it's basically our big red warning sign for the production as a whole. We've already had a season structure that leans heavily on long S-class meetings and slow pacing and recycled information, stuff that should be easy to animate and adapt, with the occasional action episode peeking through every now and again. Critics call episodes like episode 6 irrelevant padding that adds almost nothing while burning precious production time. One, completely untrue. In the manga, this is some of the funniest chapters in this arc, not to mention foreshadowing some massive information that has impacted only recently in the anime and webcomic. Hundreds of chapters later, staff leaks and coverage are all saying the same thing. Maybe not straight to the camera, but they're getting there in the end. There's not enough time, not enough resources, and the solution has been more and more heavily outsourcing. The same exact thing that catered to episode 6 failure. Sure, we might get the odd showcase episode where star animator comes in and carries a fight, like Vanoba or Aoki, but for right now, it feels like the season is locked in, stuck with this workflow, with these shaky layouts, stiff movements, and endless talking heads. And once the dust has settled and the audience sees behind the curtain, to see what actually happened behind the scenes, I don't think anyone will want One Punch Man content that releases weekly anymore. The few accounts that I saw on Twitter and YouTube that usually are hyping up episode 7, or at least remaining relatively positive, are actually now constantly posting the IMDb scores, wondering which episode will get sacrificed again just to keep other episodes looking passable. This will hurt One Punch Man long term. There's no question about it. The damage goes way beyond a week of bad publicity on Twitter. Since its release, it's garnered unbelievable amounts of hatred towards the animation house, and only recently towards its production committee members, mainly being Bandai Namco. Season 1 of One Punch Man was a once-in-a-generational flex that basically refined the past decade of animated shonens. Not that One Punch Man is a shonen, but its impact was still seen and felt. And when Season 2 released, although it chipped away at Season 1's reputation, it was still a well-animated. Sure, there was people like me who were not happy with the drop down in quality, but if we knew what was coming with Season 3, the season that was supposed to be a redemption arc, it is unfathomably hard to look at Episode 6 with anything other than pain. Episode 6 is now trending as the lowest rated anime of all time, something that will stick with this franchise's name in every future discussion. You can see that fans are saying that they're already dropping the anime, always citing to just read the manga, and that there's a real risk that the production committees look at this backlash and decide One Punch Man is a mid-tier property that doesn't justify any kind of budget or time that it actually needs. On top of that, the hate spilled over to harassment. The season's director literally deleted his Twitter after waves of harassment, which makes the whole situation feel toxic and miserable for literally every single person involved. A piece of media, a story that has brought so much joy in the past, in its manga, webcomic, and even previously in its anime. Now Season 3 is released, it is causing pain to everyone involved. And personally, it sucks, being someone who genuinely loves the series and has defended it for years, only to feel embarrassed when the thought of recommending it to someone comes up. Because now that episode like this exists within it, it feels like I'm watching someone puppet the corpse of someone I once loved. I still want to hope that we'll eventually get a remake, a fresh adaptation, that treats One Punch Man like the A-tier title that I know it is, just maybe not financially. But right now, episode 6 is setting the records for all the wrong reasons. But honestly, I thought One Punch Man's reputation was crumbling before, but now I knew that we could sink even further into the depths.